You're listening to the greatest multifamily investment advice show. My name is Adam Ras, and now I'm talking everything multifamily for an in-depth conversation, and I will be diving deep into raising capital, deals, and underwriting process.
Welcome back to the greatest multifamily advice show. Today we have Russel Westcott, an exceptional guest and real estate investor out of Alberta. Please help me to welcome our guest. How are you, Russell?
Wow, exceptional guest. I feel honored there, Adam. That I get the moniker of exceptional. So I better bring my A game today, shouldn't I?
You're really one of our exceptional guests with your portfolio, your knowledge, your network. You've been online. You have your own podcast. Many people around Canada following you. Like to hear about your advice on how to start business. So, of course, you're one of the best guests so far.
Well, I'm actually very shy about talking about what I do. I actually am very, I very quickly and pump the tires of a lot of the people that I work with and my clients and my coaching clients and people in my mastermind groups and things like that. I actually get more of a passion and a thrill about seeing other people win than actually winning myself. And I maybe that's just the humble Saskatchewan boy in me and not coming out, but I just love watching transformation stories. And to be honest, I think my story is quite boring. That's why I don't ever want to tell my story, and that's why I listen to other people's stories. Is because I'm fascinated by people's stories and their transformation of what they've done in their life.
100%. But you mentioned Saskatchewan. You moved a lot. Saskatchewan, Alberta, British Columbia now. So you moved a lot.
Yeah, well, primarily in mostly just Western Canada. So I've been born and raised in small town Saskatchewan. Like if any of your listeners are following, if they do familiar, they probably know a little bit of my story. I grew up in a place called Guernsey, Saskatchewan, town of 247 people. Wow. And if you didn't have a dog, you had nobody to play with. If you and it was right in the potash country, right in the heart of potash country within Saskatchewan. And grew up in a mobile home, like trailer park type thing. We had the trailer park, we had the mobile home in the trailer park that everybody was envious of. We had the double wide trailer, right? Where some people we had a double wide with a carport and an additional bonus room on it. So we had the big trailer in the trailer park, right? Okay. So nothing special. I had really no special story other than just a small town kid that played all sports, that played hockey all winter, played baseball and golf and went frogging in the summer, and just lived a really good lifestyle and with wonderful loving parents, right? So it was just a wonderful, simpler time, if you will.
When you were young. So can we jump on the part where you started investing? What was the beginning for you, and what was the transformation and the phases in your life on the investing side?
Well, yeah, the real to be brutally honest, I had one of those milestone birthdays. I joke around that I say that I started investing at the turn of the century, which the year 2000. It's a funny way of saying year 2000. Yeah. And I had one of those birthdays that had a zero at the end of it. I was turning 30 and I had a self-proclaimed Peter Pan syndrome. Peter Pan syndrome is that I just never wanted to grow up. So what does any young man at that time, what has he learned, and where does a young man turn to try to get guidance and counsel from? And right around that in the early 2000s, I turned to Oprah. Right. And on Oprah, I saw this wonderful interview with Robert Kiyosaki, and he was talking about Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah, of course.
And that was kind of the inception moment. If any of your listeners are movie fans, if you've ever watched the movie with Inception with Leonardo DiCaprio, there's a moment when an idea gets planted so deep in your thought process that it just become obsessed by it. Okay. Yeah. So I got obsessed by that whole thing of passive income and cash flow and all that kind of stuff. And it led me down a route to investigate all these things. Now, let me just preface this. I had never bought a property in my life at that time. I was renting a basement suite with a roommate. And then I found real estate through a conference, and I saw a fellow by the name of Don Campbell present, and I instantly fell in love with what he was teaching and the way he taught and his genuineness and his heart and what he was sharing. And I made the leap, dove head first into the concept of real estate. And geez, that's been, how many years is that now? 20, 24, 22, over 20 years now. Yeah. 22 years and plus, right?
So I think we were discussing this before the episode, which is your approach on the investment strategy, single family versus multifamily. So if we can start talk about this in your perspective, what is the pros and cons of the two different strategies?
Well, here's the thing is, I don't think one is right and one is wrong. It's a matter of one might fit better for people's lifestyle and fit better for personality types.
Correct.
Most people, here's what most people, and I'll just say one of the things. Most people fall in love with the romance of apartment building and multifamily. And then when they actually start owning it, the romance comes off quite quickly. Okay. For example, some people aren't prepared business-wise to be able to handle the operation of a larger property. Some people haven't built up their business acumen to be able to transact a larger property. People sit there and go, well, it's all under one roof. And okay, well, all of a sudden a boiler goes on one of your buildings. Yeah, now you're talking $40,000 plus on that. And some people say, well, it's cheaper to have the one boiler than have single family furnaces and all this kind of stuff. Well, not necessarily every time, right? Multifamily is not for everybody. However, I 100% think that multifamily is an amazing asset class. Okay. 100%. For me, I just found my lane of single family, and actually the lane I'm in now is new construction single family, where we actually will design our properties, we'll build them with intention, we'll build them within, the three pillars of real estate that I teach all the time is what you buy, where you buy, and who you rent to. Number one thing you do is define your tenant profile of who you rent to. Then you match the right house to that person, and then you match the right area that person wants to live in, and you'll have a good ownership experience. Within single family, if you ever had a cash call and you needed to sell a place, you can sell it. You can peel off a single family property quite quickly, sell it off, get some cash in. You can have there's multiple different things. Financing is completely different on single family versus multifamily. 100%. You can get higher loan to value ratios. You can get better interest rates in some cases if you qualify for in Canada, the MLI Select program through CMHC. There's just multiple different ways. And here's what I tell people is when anybody ever asks me the question, single family versus multifamily, I say it's not an or, it's an and. Is there a way you can have it as an and? You should have both, to be honest. But in order to get to multifamily, you have to have earned your stripes, earned your opportunity to get to a multifamily investment opportunity. 100%. It's very rare that I hear somebody just go into multifamily on their one of their first transactions. For example, with you, Adam, you it was an evolution process. Yeah.
I started first was single, not single duplexes, which is single family home, in different provinces around, and then apartment buildings, and now we're looking on a complex. Like right now, we got a deal under contract, 120 units in Atlanta. But as you mentioned, at least you need 5 to 7 years, and this is the minimum. This is, I think, the minimum time you take to understand the evolution of single family. The lender side, the underwriting is not for everyone, as you mentioned.
No, and a lot of it comes down to is somebody needs to be, in my opinion, to do multifamilies. You have to almost be in the business of real estate. Yeah. It's hard to be a multifamily operator if you're pulling down a full-time job and you have a full-time career and all that kind of stuff. It's hard. It's not impossible, but it's more difficult to do. So you need to earn your stripes. You need to have the acumen. And I think you also need to have the time as well to be able to get into it.
100%. So you mentioned something unique as your criteria. You're focusing on, I think it's called micro strategies of development, where you starting from scratch. You're like buying the lot, distressed properties, and tear it down, and then buy a bigger place. Or what is your kind niche on this?
Well, there's multiple different ways of doing that. Like to be just complete transparency, I have a business partner and a relationship with one person in my target market that has access to all the developers. Not all of them. He has access to many developers, many home builders, and he has access privy to prime pieces of real estate, prime lot positions with a lot of these builders. I have that relationship with that one person, and when I have conversations with wonderful people. Had one with this morning with somebody who has some capital that wants to invest alongside myself, maybe doing a joint venture or doing part of that. I then phone up my business partner and say, I have somebody who's interested in investing alongside me. Go find me the best lot to build us a brand new, depending on the budget. Let's call it let's just take a side-by-side duplex with suites, a fourplex. Okay. And he has lot positions that he can go find, good corner lots, lots of parking, lots of those kind of things. Then he'll go and we'll price them out. We'll get the builder, and we literally will build it from scratch.
So how long have you been doing this, like this micro strategies?
Yeah, well, I pivoted my strategy. I first started buying, townhomes and condos and a whole bunch of stuff like that. My first probably 100 plus properties was that way. And I pivoted over to new construction probably, what year is it? So probably about 6-7 years ago now. Yeah, okay. And I'm in a process right now of I'm trying to divest of all my old properties, all my older townhomes and condos. Once the conditions are proper, I will divest of all those older stuff and then reposition that into new properties. Because once you've owned something maybe new versus something that's older and deferred maintenance, it's a completely different ballgame. There's a different tenant profile. There's a different conversation you have with maintenance. There's the property's under warranty. You can actually build the property, design it to get rid of all the problems that you have with real estate. You can actually design out the solution with any of the properties that you buy. So I've made that pivot probably about 7 years ago, and on average I'll add a half a dozen to 10 properties per year and just kind of chunk out my own portfolio like that. And more importantly, what I really love to do more than buying real estate is I like to help others, is really what I'm doing is with my podcast, my YouTube, my coaching, my group, my mastermind is I'm in the business of solving real estate investors' problems. I'm in the business of pouring my information and knowledge into other people. That's really what my main business is.
Of course, but I think one of the reasoning, because you mentioned 6-7 years, I think this is because of the transition of Edmonton market when everything was going down in 2014, and the return on investment was not making sense, and the rent was going down. I think this is the reasoning for your new approach of development, because it was making more sense to work on this side of as a developer, because I think there's a reasoning for this.
No, well, 100% the reasoning is it's a better product to own that attracts a better tenant.
Oh,
that's
okay.
100% the reason, is I have a better ownership experience with a new property that attracts a better tenant profile. And the better the tenant profile I attract with my house, the better I sleep at night. That's 100%. Now, if you had, let's say in the marketplace was flat or even downward, Eastern Canada at the moment, and, and let's pretend that there was a oversupply of rentals out in Ontario. And a tenant had their choice, and they saw an older 1960s property or a brand new 2021 property. And all things being equal, which one do you think they would probably take?
The new one.
They would take the new one. People like the new properties. People like not having to live when somebody else has lived in it before. right?
Yeah.
So it just attracted a better customer. And that's one of the biggest things that I've learned over the years is, 20 plus years in the business. I still learn lots of things. It matters more about the customer and it matters more about the tenants than it matters about the pro forma, right? A lot of people sit there and they just look at price points and they look at cash flows and they look at all these kind of things. And I ask a simple question is what kind of a tenant will be attracted to that property? Do you know what the tenant profile is? And they go, tenant profile? Oh, just somebody who will pay me $1,000. No, that's not the right answer. The right answer is, do you know your tenant? And is that tenant someone you want to do business with? Because they're a customer, right? You're in the customer service business of providing a rental house to somebody that's going to pay you a fee for that ownership. It's essentially a business in a box. And most people do not take the time to define their tenant profile, and then they try to match a bad property or the wrong property with the wrong tenant profile in the wrong area. And they have a bad experience. And then 3-5 years later, they say, well, real estate sucks, right? I can't stand being a landlord.
I think that the answer to this is you're defining your criteria to A tenants, which is for some people as our investors is risky during the downwards because like for example, in Edmonton, if something happened and your tenant is paying $1,000 and he lost his job, he just can rely on support from the government, so he can pay his rent and live. But if you're going to the next tier of the better tenants or A tenants, it's gonna be risky during the downwards. But eventually, as you mentioned, if everything is going smoothly, yeah, you're gonna get a better experience, better product, and better, of course, customer, which is your tenant. So it's a give and take.
No, I believe that high performing people that perform well and earn a lot of money, and this might be really controversial, but I believe high performing people that earn high incomes have more resilience and more fortitude to figure out if they did lose their job, that they will probably keep finding another way of generating income. Right. If it comes down to having to leave in their family, I've dealt with different tiers of tenants, and I've had a lot of tenants that just absolutely just up and left and had nothing at stake with things.
Oh, 100%. Again, as I told you, it's a perspective. I think one of the things I'm going to focus on now is what is the actual impact of the inflation and the interest rate on your market now?
Well, the good news is it's actually good for business, to be honest.
Yeah, right? Let's hustle.
Well, it's good. No, it's good for business from a standpoint of in Alberta, we don't have rent controls.
Yeah.
And so houses just got more expensive to own. And I've just now across the board, I'm raising my rents on all my properties minimum 8% plus across the board. We don't have rent control. We have that opportunity. People in Alberta have the highest incomes in the country, so they can afford to pay more rent. And in my personal opinion, Alberta is significantly under rented, the price compared to other markets in the country.
100%. Yeah.
Like in Ontario, and I just have these conversations all the time. If somebody in Ontario had let's call them a duplex. I call them sometimes houses with suites, and essentially. So let's call it a duplex, an up and a down. Yeah. And in Ontario, you're probably getting, in some cases, you can get up to $4,000 rent for those places.
Yeah.
Right. Quite realistically.
Depends on the location on GTA. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's call it Hamilton. Let's just call it in Hamilton. Right.
I have one in Hamilton.
Yeah. You potentially can get up to 4,000 for that.
3,600, 3,700. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the places that I have in and around Edmonton are brand new construction, 3-bed, 2-bath, like higher end finishes. The most we'll get for something like that, an up and a down, is probably around that $3,200 to $3,300 mark right now.
Okay.
But that's why I'm saying here's an opportunity is as the rental supply dwindles, the prices are now going up. So each one of those properties the rents is now going up, and we can raise them 100%. To eventually they will get into that $36,000 to $4,000 range, in my personal opinion. Yeah. So I buy it at a lower price today, and over time I raise my rents. What does that do to cash flow?
Cash on cash is going to go up like
Cash
crazy.
flow goes up.
Yeah,
And if interest rates start going up, I pass, sorry, this maybe sound like a bad term. And if there's any tenants listening, they might get upset by this. If the interest rates and my operating costs go up, I pass those costs along to my tenants
100%.
and with a margin, right?
Especially that there's no rent control, so you can control the operation basically.
Well, however, it's all not perfect though. In a free market economy of supply and demand, you can actually have rents that drop. Now in Ontario, I just had a conversation with a good friend of mine, Michael Dominguez, this morning. I don't think there's ever been a rental decrease in Ontario, right?
Yeah.
Even though you can only raise your rents like 1.3%, something ridiculous when inflation's at 8 or whatever it is. But you guys have never had a rental decrease. In a market that is based upon supply and demand, if you have an oversupply of rentals, an oversupply and an under demand, you will actually probably have to lower your rent in order to attract a good tenant. And I as a good, caring capitalist, I like that. I like to have a free market economy dictate the business, right? As opposed to having a government overreach on many things. Like think about this for a second, Adam. Name me one other business that you know of. Maybe there are, but probably we can't name them. That the government will tell you what you can charge for your product. To charge to the product to the consumer.
I don't think of anything right now, to be honest. The government dictate the price?
Yeah, the government, well, essentially, so you have a rental right now for $1,000. The government is dictating what you can charge them for next year. Are they not?
Is he doing this on Ontario? Is he doing? Yeah. Is he doing the actual rent increase? Yeah, but not in Alberta. On Ontario, yes.
No, but name me another business like that. That the government can only tell you that you can only raise your prices by 1.3% next year.
No, I don't.
It's hard to come up with, right? So that's one of the reasons why I like investing in, and that's one of the reasons why I'm choosing also to go down to the south into the States is Texas has a lot of those same rules as Alberta. There's no land transfer taxes. There's no rent controls. It's stuff like that. So it's a very similar market.
It is. Like right now, I was just telling you, Tennessee, the same, Georgia, Texas. But the problem with Texas only for me is the appreciation. Appreciation is too much, and the price range is a little bit high, and it's a really competitive market. So, but it's one of the best market in US anyway, as you mentioned. Yeah. It's free market.
Well, it all depends on your business model as well. Like one of the business models I'm working with a partner, and we're going down into the furnished rentals down there, and you can then charge more for rent on a furnished rental, and you can actually afford to buy a higher priced product that's going to go up in value.
Yeah, 100%. So
like one of the things, a straight rental on a higher priced product does not work. But if you're able to generate more income per the house, then all day long, I would take a higher priced product.
Right
if
now,
you can get the income, right?
100%. But as I mentioned, right now in the US, a main issue, especially on the multifamily, that the cap rate is really compressed. So it's almost became the same. Like on hot market like Texas, you're gonna find that a cap rate almost like Hamilton. So the only advantage will be the rent control. But cap rate wise and return on investment, it became really hard as a
I'm not buying apartment buildings, so cap rate's not going to apply. We're building new construction properties. Yeah. So
this is coming to the next question, which is basically how you manage to have the long distance model, especially that you live on British Columbia, you have your business on Alberta, and now also in Texas. How you manage to have a boot on the ground, deal with operations, especially with developers?
It comes down to focus. It comes down to here's the thing is, like, if I was to do it on a scale from 0 to 100, I'm saying 80% in Alberta, 20% in Texas, right? Yeah. So I still focus, and it's just another market. And the only way I would actually even entertain going to the Texas market is because I have a boots on the ground operator that's going to be doing the majority of the work. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going out attracting capital to bring to our projects.
Yeah.
I'm not doing any of the finding. I'm not doing any of the negotiate. I'm not doing any of that work. I have a partner that's doing all that work for me. And then I'm just going to go do what I do. And I'm just going to go do a little song and dance and have some wonderful conversations with people. And if somebody is interested in investing into the US, I would point them to a project that we're working on. Right.
100%.
And if it works for them, then they can get into it. And then I will own a piece of that. I will not own the majority of it. I won't even own 50% of it. I'll own a small piece of it. But what I just do is I do what I do best in my swim lane. Okay. So that's that market. When it comes to Alberta, I have an entire team. I'm the operator there. I have the property management. I have everybody in place. And that's why I actually encourage people to only pick 1 or 2 markets. Don't pick 27 because you will stretch yourself pretty thin, and you will never be able to be a master of that market. You will never know it inside out and backwards. Like I probably know the Edmonton marketplace as well or better than probably people that live there. And I don't live there. I've never lived there, to be honest.
As you mentioned, you need to create your core team, which is property managers, commercial realtors. You want to find a constant pipeline of deals. You have to understand the numbers. So this is basically what you're saying, that stretching yourself thin, because you need to understand your game here.
Yep. Now I'm going to recommend a book for many of your audience and listeners. If they have not read the book Who Not How by Dan Sullivan, I would strongly encourage you to pick that up, because it's changed the way I look at real estate. Like, let's put it this way. I've always from the beginning outsourced a lot of the people. Once I read Who Not How, it took it to another level. It truly is. There is an opportunity that you can just do what you do best within your real estate, and find others that are brilliant at what they do, and just be the leader of the marching band and be the owner of the business as opposed to the doer of the business.
Yes. Because, to be honest, this was one of my reasons of multifamily, that it's give you the ability to sub everything, but I never think about it on the single family home, because always in my mind, like, single family home is going to be a hectic job, because I had like I have still right now all of the single family homes in my portfolio, and it's not a tedious process to deal with the tenants right away, because there's no especially on Ontario market, when you don't have this margin of cash flow. It's not like Alberta, but what you're saying is confirming that you can do it even on a single family home, because you did it successfully for years.
I will not buy a property in a marketplace that does not have good, competent property management and that the margins can't support to hire management. I will not buy it. I just won't buy it. Right? No matter how good I think the market is, or how hot it is, or how much speculation people are telling me in, if there's nobody in that marketplace to manage it, and there's no margin to hire a manager, it's a hard pass for me. I'm sorry if that's a harsh, but that's just the way it is.
No, as I told you, it's a different game here in Ontario. It's a game here is appreciation.
I'm going to give you a quick story on that. There's many years that I've toyed with the whole thing about, I'm going to do my own management. Every year when I look at my taxes and look at my books and I see, $80,000, $100,000, $120,000 in property management expense line, right? Every year I look at that and I go, well, why don't I just hire somebody? I'll just hire this person, hire that person. My wife can probably do this over here and that. And I'm sitting there going, I go, why would I want to take that headache? Like, why would I want to? I would be divorced if I asked my wife to take on some of that property management. And let another company deal with being an expert at what they do best. They're an expert in the Residential Tenancy Act. They're an expert in the advertising. They're an expert in the bookkeeping. They're an expert in the move-in process, the move-out process. They're an expert on the systems, on having where the call comes in, where it gets logged, the platforms they do. Let the experts do what they do best. Right?
100%. So my next part will be raising capital. How was your initial steps for raising capital, and how you managed to have an actual effective system to raise capital?
Well, so most things in life, it's was born out of desperation and necessity.
Okay.
Well, the reason why I had to learn how to raise capital is because I had none. And my options were, when I first got started in real estate investing, remember back in the day when I told you the story of I was renting a basement suite. I, had a roommate. I got inspired to buy a property. I sat there and I looked at my bank account, and the largest number I saw was a credit card. Right. So I did not have the capital.
Yeah.
So I had to either quit or
Yeah.
I had to figure out how to raise the money. And slowly what it did at that time was I got absolutely obsessed with the process of learning how other people were raising the capital. I got obsessed with getting a good coach and getting into a mastermind group of people that were raising capital. I got obsessed when I heard somebody talking about, I have a deal, I'm looking for people to invest in this project. I got obsessed with reaching out to that person to find out how they pitch their deal, how they do that. And over time, over years of honing it, I started then taking action myself, and then I started developing my own process. I developed my own system. And then once I got some success of doing that, I started to teach others the process. And I would hazard a guess that a lot of people out there right now that are teaching joint ventures and teaching the raising of the capital, especially in the Canadian space, probably learned it from myself over time. And even to this day, every single day, I'm obsessed with becoming better at the whole game, learning new ways to raise capital for my business, learning new ways to teach others, learning new ways to pour back into the community to help others that are out there right now. And because I believe in, if I give back what I've learned, we're all going to grow and benefit because of it.
I think the answer here, as you mentioned, knowledge is money. Once you started to get yourself, have an actual action, get involved in coaching program, always saying that I'm gonna learn, always put yourself on a room when you're a smaller fish, even if you have $100 million, have goals. This is the goal for everyone to grow his business.
Yeah, it was the knowledge, but more importantly, it was the actual doing of the work and execution and implementation. Everybody, let's put it this way, hundreds of people went to the exact same events that I went to. Okay. Some did, some didn't. Okay. I wanted to be part of the some did crowd. So I just took what I learned. Anytime I had a conversation with somebody who's raising capital, okay, and I would sit there and I'd have some great conversation. I'd ask them, then I'd say, what is some next steps I should do? And I would sit there and I'd write down the notes, like, what should I do? And they would say, okay, here's what you need to do. You need to find a good deal. You need to become an expert here. You need to be able to get your team in place. You need to do these 5 things. I say, good. So after I've done these 5 things, can I contact you back again? They say, absolutely. And then what I would do is I'd go do the 5 things that they told me to do. I was coachable. And I came back after they were done. I said, I've done those 5 things. What's next from here? And then from there, and those people like that have done this, that have been down the road before, that are amazing mentors. People like that want to see you doing the work. They want to see that whatever they told you that you need to do, that you're coachable, that you are actually go out and you execute against it. And then you have the right to go back to them and have a conversation.
Makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing on how many times I have conversations with people, and I quickly assess where somebody is in their journey of real estate. So there's a lot of people that go out and they're early in their process. Okay. They're not sure what's market, where they want to go to. They're not even sure calculations. And I say, okay, here's what you need to do. Read 2 books for me. I want you to read Real Estate Investing in Canada by Don R. Campbell, and I want you to read Real Estate Joint Ventures by myself and Don. Okay. After you read those 2 books, you have to come back to me and tell me what actions you've took from those 2 books, and then I'll help you with the next step. 9 times out of 10, they don't come back.
Wow.
No.
Okay.
But I know somebody like you that you would come back. Right?
Okay.
But here's the thing is 9 times out of 10 people don't come back. Oh, okay. Right? Which is totally fine. Oh. I want to make sure that I want to work with somebody who is an action taker. And I'm only looking for, I work with people that are the 10% or less. Actually, I'm only work with people that some are the best of the best. You know, the 1, 2, 3%ers, the people that will create amazing results. Those are the people I work with. And then what I do from there is I take somebody who is already a high performer and I help even get more out of them, right?
No,
That's the next level game for people, right? Getting a high performer, that somebody who's doing amazing things already. How do you get more out of that person already?
100%. So this is getting back to the how you like doing coaching yourself now. You've been a student, now you became a coach on the last 10, 15 years. So how does this help your networking, your business, and what is the motivation basically day to day to keep helping the community every day in your real estate market?
Well, here's the thing. I actually, so remember that story I told you, and I had that milestone birthday in year 2000 that ended with a 0. Or sorry, the year 2000. So the year 2020 came around and I had another one of those birthdays. And another one of those birthdays had a 0 at the end. I turned 50 and I sat there and I go, geez, you know, I've been doing this for 20 years. I looked at where I was. I go, what's the next 20 years look like for me? And I sat down and I wrote a big giant mission statement at that time. And my mission statement at that time was to help, inspire, and encourage 1 million real estate investors with the tools and resources to be able to buy one more property. Okay. Now, what does one more property mean? So do you have a minute to do a little exercise with me here, Adam?
Sure.
Let's pick one of your earlier deals. A deal, maybe let's do a single family. Your big giant properties. Let's say, do you want a portion? Do you want 100% of one of your single family properties?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me what you paid for that.
Duplex, it was $420,000.
Okay. Ballpark gross rents.
Now or back then?
Let's go now.
Now is in total
monthly rent.
$35.50.
$35.50 and 22 cents, right? Okay. So here's what one property means. So let's say, for example, let's say I teach you and I inspire you and I encourage you and I give you tools and resources to help you buy one more property. Okay. And let's say you bought one more property at $420,000 and over time you held it for say 15 years and that thing was free and clear. Okay. Free and clear property over 15 years. And it never went up $1 in value. How much would that asset be worth to you? How much is that asset to you in say 15 years?
You mean there's no appreciation at all?
No appreciation at all.
You mean return on investment? What would be?
In 15 years, it's free and clear. How much is that asset? It's not a trick question. How much is it worth to you? What did you pay for it? $420, right?
Yeah, like no, I didn't pay for 20. You paid 5. The first one was 5%. Then you pay 20%. So depend on how many properties you have.
Adam, you're overthinking it. You bought a place for $420 and it rents for $35.50. If it was free and clear in 15 years and it did not appreciate in value $1,
so your income is
what would it be worth to you?
$3,500 plus $420.
It would be worth $420,000, right?
Yeah.
And $35.50 times, let's say you have a 40% operating expense ratio, so you keep 60% of it, okay?
Yeah.
You would have an asset that generates $2,130. 2,130 times 12 equals 25,000. So if you learn a tool and a resource to buy one more property that never appreciated $1 in value and it was held till it's free and clear, you would have an asset worth $420,000 that would generate you $25,000 a year in income.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, right? I got what you're saying. Yeah.
So one more property to you in round numbers is worth $500,000 and $25K. So with 4 of those places, right? 4 places, you would have a $2 million nest egg and $100,000 a year in income.
You're trying to create an actual income for him in the future so he can quit his job.
Yes. So what I'm doing is my mission is to have 1 million people and inspire them with the tools and resources to buy them one more property.
Okay,
and then the first exercise I do is I get people to value what one more property equals to them.
Okay.
So for example, in this exercise, one property is $420,000 in asset value and $25,000 in income.
And the game will be holding it as long as much as you can, and then it's gonna be paid off, and then you can live free.
Yeah, the eventual. Well, isn't that the financial freedom goal we all have?
100%.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We want to eventually live the lifestyle that Robert Kiyosaki talked about way back in the day. But there's an awful lot of people right now with a whole bunch of conversation with a young fellow yesterday, owns 8 properties, and interest rates have gone up. He's struggling a little bit. He's probably, if I was to be really honest with his numbers, and which he was to be, he's probably upside down $4,000 or $5,000 a month now.
Which market is?
In Ontario.
Oh, okay.
Right. So is that person getting closer to financial freedom or further away?
Depend on in his situation. If he's gonna sell one of the properties to bring cash flow.
Okay, we're not talking strategy yet. Based upon what I just told you, is he getting closer or further?
At the end,
if he wants a goal of $20,000 in monthly income and he's upside down 5, is he getting closer or further? No, he's getting further away.
Yeah.
So he's having to go and work harder to actually feed his asset, which was supposed to be a financial freedom vehicle.
100%. But again, you're comparing between the appreciated market to cash flow market. So as you said,
what if you have no appreciation, Adam?
That's why appreciated market is not for investors, it's for newbies. That's why we said the berries is the best province to invest. That's why Alberta, Saskatchewan is the best to invest on multifamily or single family home. Rent control is not something you want to be in. That's why Ontario is not one of the best places to invest.
What we're really talking about, Adam, is there's a difference between investing and speculating.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. Yeah. And I believe in investing versus speculating. Right.
And the Ontario market.
But here's the thing: is you were just overthinking it a little bit there. As I was just trying to share with you, if a fellow is upside down in cash flow and he has a goal of getting a certain cash flow number, he's actually having to work harder and he's going backwards.
Yeah, he's not going to create any cash flow.
Now, the solution is completely different. You were already talking about the solution, which is the solution I told him. I go, let's get rid of the dogs. Let's get rid of the worst performers. Sell a few off, pay a few off, divest into another marketplace. You're a good coach. You're already going the next step forward. You're doing solutions, right?
This is a way to find a way to mitigate the risks. That's why we mentioned me and you as I didn't find the competitive market here in Canada. In some markets is making sense. So that's why the diverse business between US and Canada was a solution for me. But I understand where you're coming from, that it doesn't make sense for him to pay $5,000 every month to feed his property and then saying that he's doing a business. He's not.
No, I 100% agree. So we said the exact same thing in 2 different ways.
So my next question will be, what is your, how you describe your strengths or superpower? I like to ask this to every guest. How you define your superpower on the last 22 years on the business?
Well, here's my superpower is I don't have one. If you held a gun to my head, said, Russell, you must come up with an answer. Here's my answer. I won't quit and I keep showing up. Here's my superhero, Mr. Show Up Man. I keep showing up.
That's good.
No matter what happens, no matter how many times you get kicked in the you-know-whats, no matter how many times you just keep showing up. And if you keep showing up with a passion, if you keep showing up with an energy, if you keep showing up to serve others and be a faithful servant to other people, if you keep showing up with the right intention in life, I think this world would have fewer problems if more people showed up and served and helped other people.
Persistent, always. I like this, to be honest. This is basically one of the major merits on our business is to be a doer and take actions and always show up, as you mentioned.
Yeah, and you're a real estate investor. Your portfolio is extremely enviable for most people. This is difficult, Adam. Would you not agree? This is, most people will sit there and they'll just tell you the wonderful success stories, and they'll tell you about all the sunshine and rainbows and butterfly farts, about how things only go up in value. They won't tell you the challenges. They won't tell you the lost sleep. They won't tell you the giant major cash calls. They won't tell you all the times that they felt like packing it in and quitting on things. Yeah. That a person that can take all those things, and when you don't feel like doing it, you still do it anyways. That is a superpower.
Yeah, 100% agree. My last question will be how the people can follow your success and how to get in touch with you.
Follow my success? Well,
you have a big success.
Thank
Everyone
you.
knows that.
Thank you for pre-positioning and putting it out into the future that there's always going to be a success. You know what? I'm an open book. If anybody ever wanted to reach out and connect with me, the easiest way would be just jump onto my website. If you Google my name, Russel Westcott, my website's russellwestcott.com. My podcast is the Russel Westcott Podcast. My YouTube channel, everything around my name, it's all branded around that. And if there's something that somebody, if I said that resonated with your audience and they'd love to have a consultation, or they maybe just need a little help of looking at it from another lens, somebody who's been around the business for 20 plus years, there's an awful lot of people out there that are what I would call 7 years or less out in the industry. Lots of people that they've only seen one market condition in the last 7 years, and that's straight up astronomical growth.
Correct.
If you're interested in having a conversation of somebody who's seen every market condition, every market cycle across the country, I can definitely provide you some insight and some wisdom. It's the difference between knowledge and wisdom. I believe I have the wisdom to help be able to inspire people with the knowledge to take the action.
100% agree. The market has been going up and down, not like what we're seeing now on the 2090s, especially on the West. And 100%. I agree with what you're saying. I think we had fun today, I hope.
Yeah. Adam, do you mind if I offer you something here for a second?
100%.
Yeah, I usually start off every one of my interviews with some gratitude, and I did not do that today.
Okay.
I wanted to thank you. I wanted to thank you for a couple things. I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to share. I wanted to thank you for the time and effort you put together these wonderful resources to share with the community of real estate investors. It's valuable and it's needed. And I actually wanted to thank you for taking some wonderful action that you've done yourself and making a difference in other people's lives. I just wanted to offer that to you.
Appreciate it. You're the master on this, and we're trying to do the same, educate the community. Yep. And
we're kindred spirits, my friend.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. And again, I hope that we can bring you again to the show to come up with your ideas and your success again. And really appreciate your time.
Right on. Honored to serve, my friend. Honored to serve.
Thanks a lot.